Okay, we're live. Good morning. Welcome. Happy Friday, June 3rd, 2016. It's 8:01 a.m. Wait, didn't my clock say 8:03? Like I think time is going backwards. That's what's happening.
Caught in the vortex.
I can swear I looked at my clock and it said 8:03, and I was like, "Oh, we better start." And now, and then I went live and I looked back and it's 8:01. I lost 2 minutes somewhere. I got so excited that I actually traveled back in time.
It was that trip with Darth Vader.
That must be it.
Yeah.
So we have a few topics to talk about today now, which, considering I'd started with none as of yesterday, is a pretty good start. Now, the person who asked for us to talk about sales and marketing is not here, or not here yet. So I guess we'll skip that for now. Gina, you asked about Sage product, right?
Yeah. I am just starting to play around with Sage 1, and I'm really liking what I see so far. It's not QuickBooks Online for sure, and it feels like it's not as mature as QuickBooks Online, I'll say, but the price is sure right. And I like that Sage works with accountants rather than the clients.
Would it be a good solution for basically Schedule C clients?
Yes, yes, yes. Very simple clients, solopreneur type of clients, and ideally people that want you to do the bookkeeping as opposed to doing it themselves, although they could.
So, I mean, one of the big advantages to being in the Sage ecosystem, and certainly why I think as accountants and bookkeepers we need to, get into it and get familiar with it and learn it, is the ease with which companies can go up and down market, right? Because within the Sage ecosystem, you have products that will support companies at every possible level, and a lot of in-betweens that sort of don't exist anywhere else. So the, you can, and let's just talk cloud, right? Let's forget desktop. Let's assume desktop is a thing of the past because it's only a matter of time before it is. And so if we're talking cloud, the first level, sort of the lowest cloud tier in the Sage ecosystem is going to be Sage 1, right? That's their very simple cloud-based accounting application for small businesses. And that's the one that I've recently rolled out the whole section on SethDavid.com, right? I have my bookkeeping fundamentals with cloud accounting applications. I covered QuickBooks Online, I covered Xero, and I covered Sage 1, and I'm about to start rolling out lessons on Zoho Books. So, but focusing just on Sage 1 is their first sort of level. Now they're rolling out Sage Live. It's not really even out yet, but the product is basically done. It's ready to go to market. They're developing their education and training systems around that. I've had 2 demos of the product, and I'll give you an example of where Sage Live really, it seemed to hit a perfect sweet spot with one of my clients recently. The client is about to outgrow QuickBooks Enterprise Solutions. He's at around he's between 5 and 10 million a year, and he's a manufacturing company. He uses Enterprise Solutions desktop, not hosted or anything. It's just local on a network. He has several people in there because he's the chief operations officer. His mom does the books, and his dad is basically the head of sales, right? And they have salespeople too who go in.
5 to 10 million, and his mom does his books. I'm sorry.
No, his mom is she knows what she's doing. She's not a knucklehead. So,
just had to mention that.
Yeah, no, I knew somebody was going to say something about that. But no, his mom has been doing their books for years, has grown up with the company, and she's very good. In fact, I've worked with her to help her help her and the son. That's why they hired me, is to help them find ways to improve upon the process, and we have. So one thing we're going to do now, or what we're looking to do, is see what cloud options are available to them, because we want to go to the cloud, but remember they have a complex inventory structure where there's manufacturing. And it's not even so much manufacturing. They don't build assemblies, but it's complex inventory, and it needs to be in a system that's managed. So right now it's in QuickBooks Desktop, and they have an outside desktop inventory management application, and it syncs to QuickBooks. And it works really well, actually. I haven't really looked deeply into the inventory management program that he's using, but I know that bottom line, when they need to, they can sync it up and it will post the appropriate adjustments, reduce inventory, increase cost of goods sold, and everything works. And then I run the reports in QuickBooks on the inventory, and I have them check, and at this point now he's able to verify that the counts look accurate. Anyway, so we're looking for a cloud solution. He started looking at a number of applications that are out there, including NetSuite. Now NetSuite, out the door for what he would need, would start at about $60,000 and would get quickly up to something in the neighborhood of $120,000 just to get set up. It's very, very expensive, especially when you need these kind of robust ERP cloud-based systems set up. So then he looked at some other things, and nothing really fit. And then I was looking at Sage Live, and he loved it. The price point was right. The only problem is, from what I now learned this week, talking with Aaron Thompson at Sage, Sage Live is actually not equipped to manage inventory. But outside of that, Sage Live would otherwise be the perfect fit for a company of his size. 5 to 10 million, still kind of a small business, even though revenue-wise it might not seem that way. Employee-wise it is. I think the technical definition of what's considered small versus big in terms of number of employees is anything under 500 employees is considered a small business. I know to a lot of us that still seems like it could be a huge company with 500 employees, but I seem to remember from back in my college days that that's how they taught us to define the difference. So in any case, Sage Live is going to hit that market perfectly, where people are maybe have outgrown QBO or Xero or Zoho Books and need something big but not quite as big as NetSuite. It might sit alongside something like Intact, right? Which is another cloud-based, Intact I already think of as an enterprise level program. Sage Live is still more small business. Now when you do need...
Let me stop you for a moment. What about Sage 50C, which is kind of a hybrid of the Sage 50, but it's online also? Or the Sage 300 online? Sage has so many products, it's hard to know all of them.
Well, that's why you have to spend some time getting familiar with them. Because, look, with Intuit, it's been easy because they have basically one product, a few variations on the theme, right? This is different. The advantage that we're talking about here, the fact that you can move up and down market, goes hand in hand with the downside that you just described, because now we're going to need a number of different products, and we've got to be familiar with which ones suit which purpose, right? So that's the whole point. But when you start getting, now I've never heard of Sage 50C, and as soon as you start talking to me about a hybrid desktop cloud, I'm kind of out. Like, enough already. I just want to go cloud, right? So
I hear you.
So how does the price compare with, say, like Enterprise for Sage Live?
I don't know. I don't even know if they've released the pricing yet. Again, I've just had a look. I get the impression it's going to be pretty reasonable. But if you go onto the Sage website, you can see all this. And I think they might have the pricing, because I want to say my client looked at it and he said the pricing looked like it was going to be reasonable. I mean, of course, in the cloud, it's always going to be like a certain amount per month per user, right? So that can start to add up, especially if you have a lot of users that you need in there. But before we go down that road, let me continue talking about the whole vertical. So because you have Sage 1 at the lowest level, strictly cloud, then you have Sage Live. Then the next step up, so if you need inventory, if you need a more robust system, they have Sage X3. There's your cloud ERP system, which is going to handle inventory, and it's going to handle it well, and it's going to handle pretty much everything else you need at that level. So those $5 to $10 million and up companies that have complicated inventory, that have other complex needs, let's say job costing, with progress billing, all those sorts of things, Sage X3 is going to be the product that's going to manage those kinds of things very well. So for our purposes, my opinion is that those are the three products in the Sage world that we need to get familiar with initially. Sage 1, Sage Live, and Sage X3.
So they're all cloud.
They're all cloud. They have desktop products, but I'm just not touching desktop. I mean, in my own practice, I moved my own practice to QuickBooks Online this year. I have half a client left in QuickBooks Desktop. And I mean that. It's like, one client that's still in desktop, they're just waiting for me to do the migration to QuickBooks Online. And then the half a client is a guy where there's really very little to do for him. And we're even going to talk to him about QuickBooks Online anyway. but it's like it requires very little upkeep, and so I have them in QBox, shared, with myself, a bookkeeper, and the client. So that's my take so far on Sage, and I think if you start there, it's manageable, right? It's digestible. 3 products: Sage 1, Sage Live, Sage X3. Focus on those. Start at a high level. Decide which one might be most and best fit your clients. And thanks, Pat. I guess checked Sage Live pricing standard $20 to $50 per month. Thanks, Pat.
And I want to say, I think you should start at something called Sage Impact. Sage Impact is the dashboard that will allow you to have all of those Sage apps in one spot to start them. I currently have Sage 1, I have Sage View, Sage Match, and Sage Value, all on my dashboard. So when I open up my product, I'm opening up Sage Impact, and I can go to any of those.
I have a question. Say, for example, you start out with Sage Live, and you decide that's too robust. Can you go backwards down to Sage 1 and use the same data file? I mean, like with with like Enterprise and Premier, you can't go backwards. And you can't, once you've gone to Enterprise, it's only one-way integration.
I think you can go up and down with Sage. There might be a process involved in going down. Obviously, they got to scale down to whatever you're going to be losing in the process of doing so. Going up is definitely going to be very easy when you're going Sage to Sage.
It'd be easy if it was the same database. I mean, and you just turned off some features, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, again, so if you're using one Sage Cloud product and you're moving up market to the next, it's going to be a seamless integration. It's kind of like when you go from QuickBooks Pro to QuickBooks Premier, right? You just open up the file in the more robust version, and it's all there, and now you have the new features that you didn't have before.
Right.
When you move up market, it's always going to work that way. So when you're moving up market within Sage, that's going to be easy. If you need to scale down for some reason, I'm sure there's going to be more of a process involved with that. So that's, but again, I would start, and I get what you're saying, Gene, about Sage Impact, but Sage Impact is just that. It's a dashboard. It's not, it doesn't do the accounting, right?
No, it doesn't do the accounting. But what it does is put all the accounting packages in one place.
I see. Okay. So this way you could manage all of your Sage clients from there and have access to whichever accounting system they're in.
Right. You can even put QuickBooks Online there.
How about Xero?
I believe you can put Xero there too.
Okay.
I would not put QuickBooks Online there because I do have a special, what do they call that? The special login for Chrome where I keep QBO so that I can constantly be refreshing the browser and that kind of thing. Gotcha.
By the way, just real quick, those of you who are in as viewers only who came in late, just kidding. If you want to be a panelist, let me know, because I just kind of noticed we have a bunch of people in there. But I don't want to put you in as a panelist if you don't want to be. So yes, and then there's Sage View, which is another really cool product, which will get you analytics. So, and you can actually customize and write formulas for your own KPIs, to analyze different ratios and things based on balance sheet and P&L data. So that's always, good to do. The other thing, speaking of that, is Finagraph is now free. So
yeah, I signed up for that.
Finagraph, now you might as well. It's almost crazy not to, because it does give you great information and analytics.
There was a webinar on CPA Academy with the president of Finagraph, and he was making telling us about the offer. So I signed up. I haven't used it yet, but it looked interesting.
Right. So, and then so Larry mentions Pascal workflow in the chat. Here's the thing. We're talking about it on Between Wall and Main again today. I'll be very honest. I'm sick and tired of hearing about Pascal workflow because it's a product that everybody's talking about how great it is, but it's not available to anyone yet. So I feel like I want to tell that company, you know what, talk to me when you're actually ready to bring this thing to market, because all everybody's talking about is, it's an amazing program, but nobody can have it yet. Okay.
I thought for sure one of you guys would already be in as a beta user or something.
I thought they called it vaporware.
I've seen I've seen a number of people from that thread that was going on are in it, but again, I don't even want to spend the time until I know for sure that this is going to hit the market, be viable, be, you know, in other words, and this is probably just because of where I'm at. I don't have time to get into something that I don't feel very sure has longevity.
Would that sort of replace 17 Hats, or is it compete with 17 Hats?
I think so.
Okay.
I don't know. You know, because again, I think a lot of people get confused with 17 Hats because 17 Hats, they think of it like a project management tool, but it's really a little different. It's more of a workflow automation tool, and there's a difference. You know, you can't. You know, so you can't sit there in 17 Hats and assign tasks to different people and keep track of who's doing what and when. You can set up a sequence of events and things that need to happen, and you can automate a lot of it. And I love 17 Hats for lead generation and for onboarding and for certain processes that are going to be repetitive, you know, and other things. So, you know, so 17 Hats is different. And I think a lot of people don't get that just from the comments that I see in between Wall and Main. You know, or I should be more specific and say that, you know, the questions, when I see the questions that people are asking, just based on the questions, it's clear to me that people don't understand, you know, really what 17 Hats is compared with what your typical project management application. In other words, they ask questions, well, should I use 17 Hats or should I use Asana? And it's like, yes, you know, they're different tools and they really serve a different purpose, probably with some overlap. So, you know, that's where that's at. And I'm going to start, I have, you know, outlined a lot of content that I'm going to be coming out with on 17 Hats because it's an amazing tool. It has already substantially automated the process for me for my whole lead gen system, right? I've built the lead forms in 17 Hats. I've embedded them in my website. Now when a lead comes in, they come in essentially on my website, but through 17 Hats, and then I manage the process within 17 Hats. So if they're coming in and requesting a template that I have, they get assigned a workflow that emails them the template, lets them know about some upsells that I have. And then 2 days later, automatically another email goes out, again with the template attached, and a second version of it that I created. You know, again, just giving myself another excuse to sell them. And then in that second email, they get hit pretty hard with some strong sales copy. About the different webinars that I offer and other things that are, you know, where it's clear because they're requesting an inventory template that they obviously have inventory needs and based on that might be interested in the webinars and other things that I've done and that I sell around the subject of inventory. So, you know, 17 Hats is amazing for that. I just finished the onboarding process with a new business management client. And it's just so cool, especially the contract. You know, I've got my contract now built out in 17 Hats. And I love it. The contract got emailed to the client when the appropriate point in the sequence came up. And the client reminded me that I needed to add one line in there. I went into 17 Hats. I added the line item to the contract. Now I have to permanently update the template for that particular contract in there. And I did that. I made that revision, and then within a few hours, I got the notification that the client had signed the contract. It's all electronic.
Where do you get your contracts? I mean, do you have a lawyer draw them up?
I've had my own for years. What I did originally was I pieced together a contract from a bunch of different contracts that others had asked me to sign, and I just kind of pulled different clauses. I said, oh, I like this one, I like that one, and little by little I constructed my own contract. Then I had my lawyer review it and clean it up a little bit. And I've had that same contract essentially for years, and what I did was I kind of converted it into sort of a template where now I had a section where I would fill in, you know, somebody else sent me their contract where they made it they stipulated in their contract, here's what we will do, here's what we won't do, and I loved that layout that he did. And for that matter, I just love the idea that he had like bullet point line items of what the services were right there in the contract, and so I kind of adopted that into my own contract. And so that's kind of how my contract is now structured. I don't do contracts for my training services because that's very straightforward. They pay, they get the sessions, they go away, right? You know, and that's that. I can't, you know, there can't really ever be a dispute about that. So, you know, so that's kind of what I have for a contract. And I love how 17 Hats handles that. It just makes it so easy. And it's permanently memorialized right there in 17 Hats. You can download a PDF of it if you wanted to. But it just made the process so nice for onboarding this client. And now as a result of this one client, because this is the first time I did the onboarding where there was a contract involved through 17 Hats, I actually what do you call it? I actually you know, revised the major workflow, the workflow template based on that. All right, Jake, I'm assuming your hand's raised because you want in. Anybody else wants in, just raise your hands.
I want to say that Laura is saying that she used Ron Baker's agreements as a template for hers.
Okay. I don't know anything about his template. I assume it's good. He's been doing this for a while.
Quick question about the 17 Hats and stuff, because I have a contract and basically I just go in it's a Word doc and I just change out the name of the client that I'm working with, and you know, if something's monthly or quarterly. Will 17 Hats, do you actually adjust it, or do you just have your contracts the same regardless of, you know, inserting the client's name, so to speak?
You lost me on what the specific question was about the
So does, like for 17 Hats, you know, you said that stores the contract, right? So that when you have a new client, it just automatically, you know, associates the contract with the client. But do you also, I mean, does your contract have so that you change the name of the client in there? Like my contract's a Word doc, and I have the client.
Oh no, this is the beauty of it. Because I had the lead come in through 17 Hats. Once I assign that onboarding workflow, it pulls their name information in from the database. So when I build a contract, I create a template that says, pull in the quote company name, pull in the first name. So it's
a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it makes it so nice and easy. And then once the contract goes to the client, that copy of it, so to speak, becomes sort of permanently stamped with that information in there. But yeah, of course, this way you don't have to, you know, constantly, you know, update the information based on the client-specific information. What that also allowed me to do is, you know how in the Word contracts that we've used for years, we've typically had to have something in there right in the first paragraph that will name the client and then say hereinafter client. That way you don't have to keep updating the whole document. Well, you don't have to do that anymore because now I can just automatically stick the company name in there wherever is appropriate.
I see.
Yeah, I just have a bunch of different templates, you know, depending on the type of engagement, and basically, I just have to remember to title them correctly. So when I'm picking the template, because some of them it's a 1 month engagement, and other ones it's an ongoing engagement. So I just pop the contract in, and you do a little tiny bit of editing if you need to, but it's such a huge time saver, especially because they have the feature where you can have it where you send the quote and then you check 2 little boxes that if they accept the quote, then it automatically pops up the contract. They sign the contract, it automatically pops up the first month's invoice. So they literally accept the quote, sign the contract, pay the invoice in one step.
Yep, and then to add another layer to that, because I won't send them an invoice because in my world they have to pay up front. There's an email template that goes out once they've signed the contract. First, I have it set up so that they have to sign the contract first, and I countersign it, right? And so once I've countersigned the agreement, the next thing that happens is an email goes out, you know, thanking them and then giving them a link to go into my website and set up their monthly subscription for whatever their monthly plan is. You know, I have my standard plan, so they're going to pay $1,500, $3,000, or $5,000 a month, depending on which world of mine they're living in. So that's, you know, and so again, and then I put a pause in the workflow because that's an outside service. It's not connected to 17 Hats. So I put the pause in the workflow because I have to confirm, I have to go, you know, once I know that through WooCommerce, I've got confirmation that they've paid, then I can, you know, go back into 17 Hats, and now the onboarding process really begins where I, you know, at this point I've already had them fill out a questionnaire that gives me the information I need. But now I've got some services I want to set up because I'm going to, you know, Smartsheet is what I use to sort of manage the project on the client-facing side. So I've got Smartsheet set up. I use box.com for the file sharing, so I've got that set up, and I've got to invite them in. So I have a series of to-dos in my workflow where I just check them off as I get them complete. And then once the last of those to-dos is done, an email goes out to them and lets them know, hey, we've set up some services for you. You've probably received some invites. Please make sure you accept them, set up your account. I remind them that these services are all included in the monthly fee. And then in that same email, there's a link for them to schedule 4 calls that I do with all new clients for onboarding. I give them 4 one-hour calls each week for the first 4 weeks to make sure that they understand everything that they're sort of getting into. And I found that that's invaluable to the clients to do during the onboarding process. It just makes it impossible for there to be any questions or lack of clarity on what they need to do and what I need from them and so on and so forth. So somehow we got sidetracked from Sage to 17 hats. But I think that's really as much as I would want to cover on Sage for now until more of you have had more time to get into it. I like Gina's idea of looking at Sage Impact. Definitely check out Sage View, and I hate to say it, I was actually having this conversation. I was at the Cal CPA show earlier this week for just one afternoon, and I was talking with Erin at Sage, and I told her, I said, Finagraph is free now, and she kind of cringed. She's like, I know, that makes it hard for SageView to compete with Finagraph. But the truth is, they're different products. You can almost use both. Finagraph has your, typical, ratios that you're accustomed to looking at. SageView is a little bit more customizable in terms of, like, when I did the course on SageView over at, that other place, I did a lesson showing you how you could do a really cool ratio that looks at revenue per employee. And that's a metric that I often like to look at for clients because it's a measure of the efficiency of the labor force that's, working for the company. And so if in other words, if you're hiring more employees, hopefully that means you're increasing revenues. And if you have the same number of employees and revenues are going up, that suggests that you're getting more efficient, right? But if you have the same number of employees and revenues are dropping, that could suggest that you're, well, it doesn't necessarily suggest that you're getting inefficient, right? Because it could just be that you lost some business and didn't get new business. But then that's when you want to start looking at, all right, at what point do we have to think about cutting back, as much as we hate to do that? But that's from the accounting side, that's the decision we have to help our clients be able to make is, do we need to cut back? Do we need to let somebody go, before we get into trouble ourselves financially? So I like...
And that's where we're valuable, and that's the value that we need to relate to our clients that we can do for them.
Yeah. Yep, and so I love SageView for that because it lets it's like writing a formula in Excel. Very simple division. You've already got your P&L and your balance sheet in there, so I'm just going to pull in the revenue line from the P&L and divide it by the number of employees. Has to be manual, obviously, so you have to go in there. I told them, I said I would love to be able to have a custom field that I could create and say, here's my employee number, so I can just update that month to month, and that formula written off of that field would automatically update. But that's not there yet. So
I do want to add a couple more things about Sage.
Mm-hmm.
Sage Match is the same thing as the Pro Advisors. Sage will go out there and advertise for you according to what you put in there. And there's also Sage Value, which I have not done yet. I really want to look at that. That's like value pricing for your product. Of course, I have that for QuickBooks Online, but I want to see how Sage does that and what my result is with that.
Do they have like a Pro Advisor program?
You're going to look at Sage Match. You're going to put all your information there. That's where you're going to show what certifications you have and what client you want to look for. You can be industry specific and you can say which Sage products you want to support.
But do they have like a certification process for their software?
Yes.
They do, okay.
Okay, and then of course, how could we talk about Sage and not talk about the fact that Sage Summit is in Chicago next month? Thank you, Pat, for reminding me. I don't have it in my plans to go, but Erin keeps telling me that she's going to figure out something for me to go there to speak on. And
get paid.
if they do that.
Right.
They say, well, why don't you just come? I said, I honestly can't justify the time away if I'm not going there to speakers.
How many conferences can you go to a year, really?
Well, that's just it. And I went to too many last year. That was the problem, and it took a lot of time away, and the ROI really wasn't there, as I've written about on my website. So I had to make a very specific decision not to do as much of that. So, you know, Expensicon I did, frankly, because it was all expenses paid, and I love those guys.
But it was Hawaii.
And it was Hawaii. How could you say, well, especially all expenses paid? I mean, if you have to pay for it, it costs you an arm and a leg.
If you want to go to Hawaii, having it all expenses paid is the way to go.
Yep. And yay for Series A funding, because Expensify had a lot of it. Although I'm sure they didn't spend that money on this. I'll get that. So I did Expensify, and then, you know, the next one I'm doing at this point is QuickBooks Connect. You know, if Sage, and it's also coming down to the wire here, like if Sage doesn't let me know soon, I'm not going to be able to do it, because I can't, you know, you can't take a trip like that without having some kind of time to plan.
Well, as a practical matter, do things change that much from, I could see going every other year maybe, but it seems like going yearly. Is there that much change that would cost justify going?
I think if you're going to make the decision to go to one of these things, then you do need to plan on being there consistently. Mm. You know, it's like anything else. When you're building a relationship with somebody, you know, you can't talk to them once every other year. It's, you know,
plus everything the bars change every year too. There's always new bars opening up. Not for the rest of us, you know.
Right. I was going to say, but we have new AA meetings that sprout up. So. You know, but I think consistency is very important. So that's why, you know, at this point, I've chosen QuickBooks Connect. I'm not going to Account Text. In fact, you know, it was somewhat up in the air until this week, and as of this week, the decision is now final. I will not be at Account Text under any circumstances. I'm going to QuickBooks Connect, and that's it. So there are just some things I've seen Account Text doing that really have rubbed me the wrong way. Let's just leave it at that. So I'm sticking with QuickBooks Connect. That's where I'm going to be. In fact, I built my countdown page up. I want to share this with you guys. I'm going to share my screen. All right, where are we? Let's go here. So SethDavid.com. I'm going to add it under, I got to add it under the events, but right now I have it under news and travel. See, there's Expensicon, and now I have QuickBooks Connect. And I built this yesterday. It was so much fun. So there's the countdown. I have their video that they made from last year's QuickBooks Connect to sort of promote this year's. And then here's the button that will take you right to the registration page. I've emailed into it with this page, and I've asked them if I can get any kind of like a coupon code so that at the very least they can track who's coming through me. And I'm hoping they'll maybe let me offer a discount with that code. So if I can get a discount, you know, a coupon code, I'll let you all know, and I'll make it clear up here that you could actually get a discount by registering through my page here. But and then of course I'll be posting updates, and here I just love playing around with the website. So here kind of a slider that has all of my QuickBooks content that I've published on SethDavid.com so far, and you can just go through, like, here's my accounting for real estate with QuickBooks Online stuff. This is the accounts payable lesson from my QuickBooks Online cloud accounting course that's in here. So some of this stuff you're going to need to be a Patreon to you know, to access. You'll need the password. But some of it's free. So here's obviously QuickBooks Desktop. That was a fun one, by the way. It's always these things that I think are so off the wall and sort of oddball in nature that get a lot of popularity. So this was how to find how far back a QuickBooks data file goes. Run the balance sheet, total it by year, and then run it for all dates. And then you can see at a glance, you know, where the information starts. And I published that thinking, all right, this might appeal to a few people. And somebody had asked me about it, which is why I did it. But I didn't think there'd be a lot of people saying, oh, that's great. And, you know, it actually got a lot of attention. So I was like, okay, it's always the things you least expect. So there's,
I have to say, I posted something on a new feature for QBO today that I found out that I'll mention here because I think it's great. But on the bank rules, they now have a feature that allows when you put in a rule, you can, click on a little box, so to speak. So when the transaction comes through and it meets your rule, it will automatically accept it into your QuickBooks file, so you don't even have to click add.
That would scare me a little bit, though, because what if there's some kind of an exception that I want to be able to take into account?
Well, I mean, I thought about that this morning. I'm like, oh, that could be kind of scary. And I'm like, man, when I see the rule there anyways, and it's highlighted in green, it says rule, I just click add anyways. So I'm like, I created the rule in the first place. Either I'm right or I'm wrong, but hopefully I created the rule because I'm right.
Right.
Could you create the rule?
At the end, I just thought it's just, because when I think that for me, the whole point of the rule was just to say, okay, transactions there, it's going to be highlighted in green, it's going to say rule, so all I need to do is click add, or, select them all and batch add them in. So even if it has rule, I'm not even looking at it anyways. I guess that's the whole point of it for me, is to make it quick.
See, I like where I go into QBO and I click on that recognize tab, and I'll sort it by payee just to make sure. And it only takes me a minute, but I get what you're saying. There's going to be certain ones where you know there's never going to be a deviation. It's just always going to be this name with this account done. Right. Just post it. So, I get that. I
mean, it's tough. There are some cases, like, for example, I charge some of my clients get 2 bills from me. One might be for payroll services in the middle of the month, and one might be at the beginning of the month. So now I have it separated out by dollar amounts as well. So I can apply a rule to transactions that might go into different categories based on amount or what have you.
Yeah. No, I love the rules there at QBO. It's gotten really, really good.
Are the rules strictly and type rules, or can you throw in some more?
No, you can put in all kinds of logic. Anything you can imagine, you can do. Speaking of, I got this shirt this week. And you know what the coolest part is? Hashtag I love QBO. That's not the coolest part. It's kind of cool. But no, the coolest part for me, this is on a personal note, was I've now gone down to XX from XXX.
All right.
I love that.
Nice.
Yeah, that is nice. All right, so let's go through some questions here. Because the other topic we were going to talk about, if I remember correctly, was requested by Jennifer Castro, who I don't think is here with us. Jennifer, are you here? Let me check the list. Oh, Jennifer is here. Jennifer, I'm going to add you in as a panelist so that we can talk about this. Because I believe it was you, Jennifer, on Facebook who asked about doing something on sales and marketing. I could be wrong. I have definitely been wrong before. But I don't know, Jennifer, do you want to unmute? Did you have any specific questions, or was that not you?
Yeah, that was me. I will unmute for a minute. I have animals and children that will float in and out.
Oh, that's okay. We welcome all kinds, furry ones, not so furry ones.
Yes. My biggest question is paid advertising dead? Do you do any paid advertising?
Interesting. So there's pay-per-click, of course, which is Google Ads, right? That's what we typically think of. I have done that. It is very effective. You do need a good budget for it, though. You're going to need to be able to spend at least $500 a month. One thing that I learned that I think is very interesting along those lines is, and let me preface all this by saying one thing, you need to work on ranking organically always, right? Which is how you rank theoretically without paying for anything, where you're just writing content so that you come up on a search. That's why it's so important to blog and create content and do all the stuff that I do. But what I learned that's interesting is when you start paying for ads with Google, your organic stuff starts to do better. We've noticed an increase in traffic coming from our organic content as soon as we turn on an ad on Google. So obviously Google, the heart pumps blood to itself first kind of thing. As soon as they see, oh, this domain has a paying ad running that's associated with it, then it seems like they must have something in their algorithms that increases the rankings for your organic content too. So even if you're paying just a little something, it seems to help. But here's the other thing. Google Ads, if you notice when you do a Google search now, you no longer have the ads running along the side. You just have a couple at the top, right? Which just got a lot more competitive. That's new. And the other thing is, and where I think you're actually better off, is with things like Facebook advertising. and advertising on Instagram. People are hanging out in social media all day. That's where you're going to grab the audience most likely, right? So I think you're actually better off using something. If you're going to pay for advertising, do it on the web. I do think print advertising is kind of a waste, because this is where we are all day, right?
Right.
I'm on this thing all day. So this
Right.
is where you're going to have the best chance of reaching me with your ad. And which means, and where specifically am I on here? I'm on Facebook and I'm on Instagram all day long. I'm on Snapchat. I'm on, Twitter.
So have you ever read any Facebook ads?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I in fact, the way I advertise on Facebook is I'll create a post. It might be a link to a blog post that I put on my Facebook page, my Nerd Enterprises page. And then there's that option that says Boost Post. And so you click that, and Facebook takes like 15 minutes to approve the ad. If there's an image in the ad, the image can't have sort of text in it. Like I can create an image and write stuff on that image. There's a certain percentage of the space that's required at a maximum on the text. In other words, they don't want you trying to plaster an image with a text message, if you will. So there's certain rules, but as long as you're not trying to game the system, you'll probably be fine. And and then once it's approved, you have different options. And then you should watch the ZIBWAM we did with Justin Crane a little while back, because he talked to us about retargeting. And I'll show you how this works real quick. Let me share my screen with you again. This is so cool. We were all sort of mesmerized by this when Justin talked about this. And I knew that it existed, but I never knew that it was as easy as it turns out it was to sort of make this happen. So let me go into Facebook. Oh, everyone can read my email now and my messages with Gail Perry. All right, so I always get a little hung up on how to get to the ads part. So if I just go into create ad here, I think that gets me into the Facebook ads world. That just takes me back out. All right, so we want to go to the ad manager. Ad manager. Okay, so here is my Seth David account, and everybody's seeing this, right? Anyone? Bueller?
Yeah.
Okay, so if I go to Tools and I go to Pixels, so here's what happens. I've got a Facebook pixel created. And you go through the process here. Basically, you create an audience, and Facebook will walk you through how to create the pixel. And then you get a code. And now let's go to SethDavid.com. And if I click here, well, that's interesting. I have to fix that. It's supposed to find pixels. Oh, it's not here. It's on School of Answers. That's why. So because schoolofanswers.com is kind of my online shopping cart. So this is where the conversions happen. So notice here, this is a little Chrome extension where it checks the site to make sure that it can find the pixel. So you see how it says one pixel found on schoolofanswers.com? Everybody can see that? Okay. And view event log. So it's showing me that there was a URL called School of Answers. I can show that. And notice it came from Facebook. Okay, and then it's going to schoolofanswers.com. So the bottom line is this. You know how when you go on to a website somewhere, and let's say you're looking to buy a product, but you don't decide to buy, you leave, and now you're back on Facebook chatting with your friends, and all of a sudden you see ads on the side on Facebook that are for the very product you were just looking at.
Right.
Oh, yeah, all the time.
That's a pixel. That's what pixels do. So because I now have pixels here on Seth David or schoolofanswers.com, what'll happen is when you go back onto Facebook, it's very possible you will see my ad on your Facebook feed.
Yeah, you always have to be careful, like.
Right. So the whole idea is that, after a while, all of a sudden, my hope is people go back to Facebook and they start seeing School of Answers, School of Answers. Like, all right, already, I'll sign up for a session with you.
Okay.
That's kind of the idea here. So now if I go to manage ads, I have a campaign. So right now I have them all turned off. And I do that. Right. I'll just turn them on and off because I only want to spend so much per month on this stuff, right? I definitely don't want that ad turned on again.
So it kind of seems like the ads are stalking you, doesn't it?
Well, that's the whole idea. So the whole idea is, it's almost, and it's very effective because people they'll click back over because it's like, obviously they're on the fence. They clicked away for whatever reason. They weren't ready to buy yet. So, and now since everybody hangs out on Facebook, I think Facebook makes the most sense as far as the place you go to do this. But that's where you, so that way the idea is hopefully they go back to Facebook and they keep seeing you on Facebook, and then they say, you know what, yeah, let me just go do it. It's all psychology really when it comes down to it with this. All right, so let's go to audiences. That's what I want to look at. So now this is important. So I've created an audience on Facebook called QuickBooks users. Notice here when I move my mouse over, the size is 4,200,000. I've set the location for the United States, and I've got interests in here. These are like tags or keywords. So notice I've got Intuit, QuickBooks, Quicken, accounting software, comparison of accounting software. So when I turn on an ad and I point it at this audience, then that's whose feed it's going to show up in, is people who have written or talked about these topics, people who have it in their profiles, right? So you define the audience, and then I create the pixel. So now the pixel is going to take people from, so the ad's going to show up for people from this audience. And here's why this is important. I could make it a much broader audience. I could say just throw it to anyone. But now,
right, you don't want to do it, yeah.
People who don't care about what I'm offering. So even though the audience is smaller, I have it's a much hotter audience, if you will, right?
Right.
They're much more likely to want to buy what I'm offering. So that's the name of the game right here, and that's where I think Facebook, and I was, as many of you know, I follow Gary Vaynerchuk very closely, and just last week, he was saying in another one of his videos that he still feels that the cost of Facebook advertising is very cheap relative to the ROI that you get from it.
Is it like a pay-per-click, or is it?
Yeah. So, well, no, you pay, it's really pay per impression. And just like Google, you can limit it to, I want to spend so many dollars per day, and it'll stop it. And you can even, you have a lot of control over how that gets spread out. Like you could just say, max it out every day and then stop, or you can tell it to kind of spread it out. So it'll do, $10 a day, or $75 a day, or whatever you want. So, you have a lot of control when you set these ads up. The name of the game here is spend the time. Make sure that you've got a good, well-targeted campaign created. Get that pixel. By the way, to create that pixel, you get the code for the pixel from the Facebook ad, and then WordPress has a plugin. If you search plugins for Facebook pixels, it has a plugin that lets you take that code from the ad manager and just paste it on any page or any post where you want that pixel to show up.
Right.
So it's very, very easy, assuming you're using WordPress. And so you don't need to know how to write any code. You just need to follow some simple instructions, and it'll give you the code snippet that you just copy and paste. So it's very easy.
But it's cheaper than, right now, it's cheaper than Google, because Google is so expensive these days.
Yeah, I'm sure it's cheaper, and I also would go as far as to say it's probably more effective.
Okay.
I want to say something about ads, Seth.
Mm-hmm.
Something that's really, really working for me right now is printed old-fashioned swag. This is something called a money wallet, where I have my information. You put it on the back of your phone, and people have been going crazy over this. You can carry a credit card. You can put your business card in there. You can fold up a couple dollars. I've gotten, believe it or not, clients call me for that stupid thing.
That's hysterical. I would never use one of those, but I see a lot of people using them.
I would say the same thing. I said the same thing myself. I never thought I would use it, but I do use it. And the other thing is your laptop, putting a sticker on the back of your laptop.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a good idea.
People see that and come and talk to you.
Yep. Especially if you work, but that brings up another really good topic. We could spend a whole hour on this one week. Blake Oliver, you all know who he is?
Yeah.
He's been on a few of these with us. He's a really good guy. He built up a company called Cloud Sourced Accounting and then sold it to HPC, which is Bruce. Why can't I think of his last name? I always have trouble remembering his last name. Bruce. I can look it up. It'll be embarrassing if he watches this and knows that I forgot his name. So now I'm determined to get it. Bruce Phillips. All right, so I didn't need to. Let the record show that I didn't need to look it up. So Bruce Phillips runs HPC Accounting, which is a cloud-based CPA firm essentially, and he bought Blake's Cloud-Sourced Accounting. Anyway, that wasn't even the point. The point is Blake wrote a blog post recently, which I thought was a really clever idea, and all of us could be doing this on our blogs in whatever city we're in, where he's here in Los Angeles, very close to me, and he talked about all the different cool places that you can go if you work remotely. So, like, we have the Getty Museum, and the Getty has Wi-Fi, so you can go work at the Getty Museum. It's gorgeous, right? And he listed a whole bunch of places. If you go to if you search for Blake Oliver, you'll find his blog. I forget the because now that he's no longer Cloud-Sourced Accounting, it's a different blog. It might even be like Blake Oliver. He's also on Facebook. He's friends with me on Facebook. Great guy. Reach out to him. Connect with him. In fact, he goes hiking with me sometimes on Saturdays. And Griffith Park is another place to go with your laptop. So the point being, going back to Gina's suggestion, you get those stickers on your laptop, with your own branding and whatever products you support, like a T-Sheets, and you strike up conversation with people. Like, I would probably want to I have to get this up. It was years ago. It was a total accident. Somebody was, I always have search columns on Twitter looking for people who are, say, complaining about QuickBooks, because those are opportunities where I can help people, right? So somebody had posted a tweet saying something like, QuickBooks is making me very angry. And I wrote a reply saying, I'm great at making people less angry when it comes to QuickBooks. And that got retweeted like crazy. It practically, I almost thought it was going to start trending on Twitter for a day. So I had it printed up on a T-shirt. It was great. I'm going to put that on a sticker on the back of my laptop, because people see that in a coffee shop. They're going to come over and say.
And they do. They will come up to you and talk to you.
Yep. So in fact, and then the other thing is, see, I hate the trackpad on my laptop. I despise it. I still love the mouse. So I use the mouse, and then I've got the mouse pad, of course. I got my T-Sheet mouse pad because that's how I roll. And by the way, this mouse is awesome. I call it the Millennium Falcon.
Oh, it looks awesome.
Look at Pat's mouse pad with the keyboard shortcuts. That's awesome. The QuickBooks keyboard. I love that. So
How old is that, Pat? Where did you get that?
I know. Do people even? I thought mouse pads died in like 1985.
No, because I hate using the pad on my keyboard. So I love my mouse. I use this all the time. Now, of course, what's cool about this is no more batteries. It's rechargeable via USB. So it charges. And it's called the MX Master. And it can actually be connected at the same time to up to 3 devices, and then you just switch which device you want to use it with. What I would love to be able to see happen is to get, because do I have my tablet here? Yeah, so I have my tablet in the ZAG keyboard holder, right? So it looks like a little computer. I would love to be able to use my mouse with this little bad boy. So instead, I still have to use my finger. But the other thing that I saw at the Cal CPA show, speaking of, is it's basically a computer on a stick. So it's like a little USB. It almost looks like one of those USB flash drives.
I've talked about that before.
Yeah. Well, apparently it's getting more popular and more, and less expensive. So it's really going to, according to David Cieslak, who always does the Inspector Gadget presentation, it's, what do you call it?
So it's similar to like a Raspberry Pi?
I don't know what that is, other than a delicious pie that I would eat.
No, there's like these mini computers that, like, I don't know, my husband's into it. I just smile and nod. But then they have like the Chrome something that can turn your like TV into a computer. No, this is different though. I think now it's basically you can turn a monitor into like a Chromebook.
Yes, that's what this is. And I think I want to say it was Samsung or somebody like that who makes one now. And yeah, it looks like a little memory stick, but you basically take your computer with you, you stick it into a monitor, you have to connect the keyboard obviously somehow, and then you take your computer with you wherever you go, which is really cool.
Wow, does that sound stealable? I'm just saying.
Oh yeah.
Well, I don't think you store much on it. It's all just, it's like a Chromebook where everything's cloud-based.
Well, I think that was the thing. So now this one that he showed, I want to say, now allows you for like a terabyte of space on it, whereas before.
Wow.
Whoa, that's awesome.
Yeah. So David Cieslak's great. I love when he gives those Inspector Gadget presentations. So that's pretty cool. But okay, so back to selling, advertising, marketing, bringing in new clients. So retargeting, Jennifer, is what that's called. Is where somebody goes to your site, they leave, and you retarget them because you pick them up on Facebook, which is where they're hanging out. I mean, the whole reason I decided to start our accounting group on Facebook rather than LinkedIn is A, LinkedIn was already flooded with them, but B, I realized I had looked at my own behavior, and I said, LinkedIn is a place where I go in and leave, but Facebook, I tend to be there all day long. I will often leave the tab open, even if I close it. It's only a matter of time before I start getting wondering, hey, what's going on Facebook? Let me open
I've been using LinkedIn less and less and less.
I've been using it more lately, but in a different way. I don't go into groups anymore. I use it more for sort of prospecting and looking at my contacts and, kind of as a complement to what I'm using Nimble for now, which is, Nimble, I'm back to sort of that as my CRM of choice now because I feel it's the best way to target people and kind of build an audience around whatever your topics are. So Jennifer, what do you sort of specialize in your business? Do you have a particular industry?
Well, I'm just starting. I actually have I did manufacturing bookkeeping for a big manufacturing company. So I'm going to do the trucking industry, landscape contractors, probably the equine industry. I have a background in that as well. So.
Awesome. So you want to create content for those people, right?
Yes.
You want to write blog posts. Of course, you'd really make me happy if you made videos on the topics using Camtasia. Build the resource. It's a classic. If you build it, they will come. You build the resource. You create a section on your website on accounting for contractors. And by the way, accounting has much greater search volume than the word bookkeeping does.
That's what I've noticed. I've been looking at the Google. I mean, do you spend a lot of time looking at that? Because I spend a lot of time looking at that, what people are searching for.
I'll be very specific in my answer to that question. I have spent large chunks of time on it. I don't regularly spend a lot of time on it, but what I'll get down and I'll spend 4 or 5 hours. And in fact, one of the talks that I'm going to be giving most likely at QuickBooks Connect this year is very detailed. It's sort of like the social media marketing 102 level course, or 201 level course, I should say. So in fact, it's going to be a successor to another talk I'll be giving there. And so it's really going to be a little bit more of an advanced class where I'm really actually going to go through the process of how to, it's almost like now that you know how to create content, because presumably you've watched my other stuff on that, how to create videos and why you need to do all that. Now we have to figure out what we're going to create content for and which keywords we want to rank for. And so I'm going to walk through a whole process where I show people how to use a keyword tool in Google Analytics to develop campaigns around specific long-tail key terms and how to do that research and figure out which long-tail key terms are the best ones to go for. Because if you do something that's too broad, it's too competitive, you'll never rank for it. You do something that's not broad enough, then it's pointless. Nobody's searching for it, right?
Right.
So you need to find that sweet spot, and you need to find, ideally, the sweet spot is a key term that's getting a lot of search volume, but that for whatever reason nobody's trying to rank for it, right? And so and there is a rating that it gives the key terms in terms of the competition. How competitive is it? So you want high search volume, low competition. Very, very hard to find, but it's there. It's just a question. I compare it to you guys are out here in California. We have a chain of stores called Ross.
Yeah.
You guys know it? So I compare it to that, where you can go there and there's lots of stuff there, but it's hard to find the good stuff. You have to really look for it. That's my frame of reference. So that's kind of what the process is like here. It's hard to find that sweet spot. It's hard to find those good terms. But you can do it, but it takes some work. And so if I'm about to develop a social campaign that I know I want to really build a long-term social campaign around, like if I want to do accounting for trucking companies or accounting for truckers, well, that's the research you got to do right there. What's better, trucking companies or truckers? Probably both, right? In a case like that is what I probably want to do both. But that's the stuff that you want to look at and research. And who's that? Oh, we lost your audio.
Yeah, because he's coming in to hang out.
Hi.
Yeah, he wants mom now.
We have a new member smiling. Yay.
Yeah, he's going to say, I want to eat, so we're going to have to disappear.
Oh.
Yeah.
You know what? I feel the same way. I want to eat. And actually, our time is up. It's 9 o'clock.
12 o'clock.
You know what's going on later today?
What you see is what you get. Happy hour.
All right. So everybody join Gina's. It looks like you've been doing it on Google Hangouts again? Or
I still use the Google Hangout event because I like the format.
Right.
But then I actually have an event over on the Facebook group too, and that's where I put the link because it is private. Not everybody can join. Just our members can.
Gotcha. Okay, so you're just using Google to sort of advertise it. You're not using the actual Hangout to deliver.
Right,
Okay.
right.
I was curious because I saw the notification. I was like, oh, is she back to using Hangouts?
You know, they're changing them again, and honestly, I would like them to stop making changes, just improve the technology.
Well, they're going to start making changes because now they got to try and compete with Facebook Live, right? Because Facebook Live is making huge waves in the whole live streaming world.
Absolutely, absolutely. And they had the audience, and they lost it with their poor technology, poor technical, you know, videos audios were bad. The videos would, you know, go on and off. And in the 3 years that we used it, it never improved. Never improved. Notifications were clunky, didn't go out until after the event was over. So all of those things added up to we need to use Zoom, something that's stable and something that works.
Yes, I agree. So, and you know, it might be interesting to try Facebook Live. I still love Zoom. I've fallen in love with Zoom. I'm just sticking with Zoom.
You know, the way that it works and you can record it, I'm not sure how to record the Facebook Live or even...
Oh, it automatically records. Once you go live and you're done.
That's it, you're done, yeah.
My feed. I went live the other day and it's just there. It's in a video. So in that regard, it works just like Hangouts, right? You turn it on, it's recording, and it'll stay recorded, you know, and it'll be there in your feed. And then you can, you know, you can click through to the video and you can grab that link and share it wherever you want.
You have to be on Facebook to see it.
Correct. But who's not on Facebook, right? I mean,
I would like to share it across all media.
No, and that's what I like about Zoom is that ultimately I get a video file I can upload to YouTube.
Right.
And then from YouTube, it's easy to get anywhere. And Vimeo. And I'm becoming a bigger and bigger fan of Vimeo and less a fan of YouTube, interestingly enough. But the thing is, YouTube still has the audience, so you kind of can't live without it.
Right, right.
So, all right, I am out of here. I got things to do, and so do all of you.
See you later.
Bye.